Order, please. I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the Standing Committee on Public Accounts, and the committee mandate is that the committee is established for the purpose of reviewing the public accounts, the annual report or other report of the Auditor General, and any other financial matters respecting the public funds of the province. My name is Susan LeBlanc, and I'm the chair of the committee. My pronouns are she, her. And before we begin, I'd like to remind you to put your phones on silent, please. And if there is a need to leave the building, we will exit through the Granville Street doors and then gather at the Grand Parade. So now I will ask the committee members to introduce themselves with your name, your constituency, and your pronouns, please. We'll start with the member on my left.
Marco McLeod, MLA Pictou West, he, him.
Good morning, Brian Wong, MLA Waverley Fall River Beaverbank, he, him.
Good morning and welcome. Tom Taggart, MLA for Colchester North, and Tom or MLA Taggart.
Good morning, I'm Rick Burns, MLA for Hammonds Plains Lucasville, he, him.
Ian Rankin, Timberley Prospect, he, him.
Good morning, Derek Mumbercat, MLA for Sydney Member 2, he, him.
Hi, Lisa Lachance, MLA Halifax, Little Sable Island.
Diane Timmins, MLA for Victoria the Lakes, and it's she, her.
Thank you very much. And we also have officials from the Office of the Auditor General, the Legislative Council Office, and the Legislative Committee Office here in attendance today. On today's agenda, we have officials with us from the Departments of Growth and Development, Agriculture, and Service Nova Scotia regarding the Nova Scotia Loyal Program, support for Nova Scotian businesses. So I would like to ask the witnesses who we have here to introduce themselves, and I'll begin over here. And if you could just state your name, your pronouns, and your role or your department.
Good morning, Chris Mitchell, Chief Procurement Officer, he, him.
Good morning, everyone. Joanne Monroe, Deputy Minister for Service Nova Scotia and All New Affairs, she, her.
Good morning, Chris Morrissey, Deputy Minister for Growth and Development, he, him.
Good morning, Melissa Quinn. I'm the Project Executive for Nova Scotia Loyal, she, her.
And good morning, Jason Hollett, Deputy Minister for Agriculture, he, him.
Thank you very much, and welcome to everyone. I will invite Deputy Morrissey to make some open remarks, and then Deputy Hollett, and then we'll go to Deputy Monroe. So Deputy Morrissey, if you will.
Great.
And, sorry. Yeah, just wait till your light goes on there. It's
Thank
good
you.
Now.
Good morning, and it's a pleasure to be here. This is Small Business Week, so it certainly is very convenient that we're here today to discuss the Nova Scotia Loyal Program. Thank you for the opportunity to be here alongside my colleagues to discuss the Nova Scotia Loyal Program and the support for Nova Scotia businesses. This is a very important discussion and one that is incredibly timely. There's no question that the threat of tariffs over the last several months have been creating considerable stress and uncertainty among our business community, our local manufacturers, harvesters, producers, growers, and consumers. That is why, now more than ever, our Nova Scotia Loyal Program is so important. Nova Scotians want to buy and support local, and as a government, we want to make it even easier for them to do that. Nova Scotia Loyal brings visibility, shines a light on Nova Scotia products, so that consumers can make more informed decisions when shopping and supporting local businesses. Nova Scotia Loyal is more than a buy local program. It has really become a movement. Over the last several months, our brand ambassadors, staff, and the minister have been at events promoting local products across the province. And that response has really been overwhelming. In fact, in just a few weeks ago, we celebrated an incredible milestone. More than 1,500 businesses, producers, harvesters, manufacturers, crafters, and growers signed up, and that number is increasing every single day. These businesses, whether they are small or large, are making a difference, and we are proud to have every single one of them as a part of our team. Over the last several months, we've been very focused on listening to businesses and adjusting our programs to better support them. For the 25-26, our budget is $8 million to provide programming incentives like the new Nova Scotia Loyal Producer Labeling Pilot Program, where businesses can apply for 70% rebate on eligible expenses up to $3,000 for adding for Nova Scotia Loyal logo on their products and packaging. Additionally, we recently announced the new local supplier food safety support pilot program to help support food producers meet food safety requirements they need to get more of their products to local and global markets. On top of this, we recently expanded our partnership with the Farmer Markets of Nova Scotia Cooperative to provide vouchers to all public schools, homeschool and MK students, as well as post-secondary students and newcomers to the province. Last year, more than 21,000 students from across the province visited our truly exceptional farmers markets, 38% of them for the very first time. With the expansion of the program, we know that number will grow. These are just a few examples of how we are working tirelessly to ensure Nova Scotia Loyal is responding to the needs of our businesses, and we're only getting started. Before I hand over the floor, I'd like to share a quote from one of our proud Nova Scotia Loyal businesses, Green Paw Treats. The owner recently shared a social media post saying, "Through the Nova Scotia Loyal initiative, the provincial government has made an incredible commitment to uplifting small businesses, fostering community connections, and encouraging Nova Scotians to support local. Seeing this program expand into major retailers and create real opportunities for businesses like mine is beyond inspiring. It's life-changing. To Minister LeBlanc and the entire Nova Scotia Loyal team, thank you. Thank you for believing in us, for giving us small businesses a seat at the table, and for ensuring that local products remain at the heart of the province. Here's to growth, gratitude, and a future where local always comes first." And we have many of those testimonials from businesses. This moment is truly an all-hands-on-deck approach, and I'm very pleased to be joined by my colleagues at Department of Agriculture, as well as Service Nova Scotia, who elaborate on the work we are doing together to support local businesses through the Nova Scotia Loyal program. We are truly Team Nova Scotia when it comes to this work. And with that, I'll hand it over to my deputy colleagues. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Morrissey. And now we'll move to Deputy Hollett, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to be here today. Supporting farmers and strengthening our local food supply are essential to building healthy communities and driving economic growth across Nova Scotia, but especially in our rural communities. The Department of Agriculture is proud to be part of the Nova Scotia Loyal Cross-Government Working Group, led by Growth and Development. Through this collaboration, we're helping farmers grow more local food, encouraging Nova Scotians to choose local, and expanding our value-added food sector. Through initiatives like Nova Scotia Loyal, we're helping farmers and producers reach more people, whether through marketing campaigns, social media, retail merchandising, or other support programs, making it easier for Nova Scotians to find and support local businesses. We're also integrating the Nova Scotia Loyal brand into institutions, distributors, and food hubs to boost visibility and awareness. A recent example is the launch of the Buy Local, a resource guide for Nova Scotia public institutions, which supports increased local food procurement. These efforts reflect how departments are working together through Nova Scotia Loyal to strengthen and support and grow for our agriculture producers. I just want to take a quick moment to acknowledge that this has been a challenging year for our agriculture industry. We've had drought conditions that are quite unprecedented. And while the full impact is still unfolding and may affect future growing seasons, we're working closely with the Nova Scotia Federation of Agriculture and other industry associations to make sure that we understand the issues and identify how existing programs and services can best support farmers and any actions that we need to make going forward. So I look forward to your questions about Nova Scotia Loyal and how it's helping to support our agriculture industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And now we will go to Deputy Monroe, please.
Good morning. I'm very pleased to join you today with my colleagues from the Department of Growth and Development and Department of Agriculture. Madam Chair, the Nova Scotia Loyal program is an excellent example of what can be accomplished when departments come together to support one goal, and that is to support the growth and development of Nova Scotian businesses. We know that Nova Scotia businesses are the backbone of our economy. They hire our people, support our communities, and help to build our future. By driving demand for local goods and services, our businesses will continue to thrive. Our department manages the purchases of high-value goods, services, and construction for provincial government departments. And as a result, we were invited to be part of the cross-departmental working group to build the Nova Scotia Loyal program. Our job was to ensure government spending is supporting Nova Scotia businesses where possible and to introduce a directive for the favorable treatment of Nova Scotia businesses. The directive was implemented in the summer of 2024. The directive allows local businesses to receive a 10% advantage over American and other out-of-province vendors when they are competing for contracts below the Canada Free Trade Agreement thresholds. The directive is applicable to all provincial government departments. I'm pleased to say for the fiscal 24-25, over 1,400 Nova Scotia suppliers were awarded over $470 million in contracts. Chris and I look forward to answering your questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, folks. We're going to begin the first round of questions, and I will say just in advance, if an MLA has heard enough of an answer and wants to move on because there is, time limitations, I will ask the MLAs to clearly flag me, and I will call order and try not to interrupt a thought, but I will have to interrupt. And I'll also do that at the end of 20 minutes, 20 minutes, and 20 minutes. So we will begin with MLA Lachance, please.
Great. Thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to our conversation. I think the stories that the testimonies that you have are important, but at the same time, when we talk to folks who haven't signed up, producers, small businesses who haven't signed up to Nova Scotia Loyal, I think they have questions about what the value add is of being part of Nova Scotia Loyal. So I'm wondering, what's the impact on the bottom line? Like for businesses, it's really about increased revenues, increased markets, and increased customers. So what's been the impact on people businesses who've signed up for Nova Scotia Loyal?
Deputy Morrissey.
I'm new to this, so just bear with me as I go through your processes here. I'll hand it over to Melissa in a second with respect to specific pieces around this. We know that this is a program where that small, medium-sized businesses can definitely take advantage of a variety of different programs. The lift we're seeing, for example, in the rewards program was a 20% lift in sales for those people that participated in the in that particular program. That's one example of some of the impact it does have, but there are many other examples, not necessarily as sales directly with that number. If we look at the number of producers who are now in stores, whether it's small stores, small commercial entities, or very large-scale entities, the number of people now calling us and saying, how do we become a part of that program is increasing every single day. So I think people are starting to hear the stories, did you know that I'm in X store now? And because of programs like the food safety program, which is a heavy requirement for small businesses to go through of getting those food requirements met, the support that we're getting from some of the other departments in areas like that, as an example, is just another way that we're here to support businesses, give them new markets, expand their existing markets that they may be in. That's not just Nova Scotia. Once you get into Sobeys in Nova Scotia, who knows where that could be across the country. And certainly with the focus right now of breaking down provincial and territorial trade barriers, that too is an important story to tell. So expanding the market here in Nova Scotia, we have 3% of the population who are buying some products and services. It certainly is the rest of the country is a significant portion of the population and market that they could be selling as well. But I'll just turn it over to Melissa, probably with some more statistics around the impact of the program.
Before we go on to Ms. Quinn, do you want to ask a new question, Emily Lachance?
Sure. I think I just really want to focus on the data. So are we asking businesses to track increased revenue? Is that something that you know about? We'd like to know what the data is around the growth and support to businesses.
Ms. Quinn.
Happy to take that. So what we did when we were designing the program, we did a baseline study of the baseline expenditures on local. We did use 2019 StatsCan data. It was the earliest we could get at the time, but we also wanted a pre-pandemic baseline. We did see that artificial lift in the sales of local products during the pandemic that returned to pre-pandemic purchase behavior. So we wanted to make sure that the data wasn't skewed by that. So when we did that, we did adjust for today's dollars. So we know that business procurements on local products are about $2.6 billion, 26% local. And on Nova Scotia household spending on local products is $606 million, which is around 13%. So it's a potential of $3.2 billion that we're looking to incentivize or encourage increased growth for. When we look at a 10%, so our program target is the increase of demand and consumption of a 10%. We're looking at direct GDP contribution of 21.9 million, and employment of 252 FTEs, and then the total direct and indirect spin-off would be 48.7 million and 528 FTEs. The challenge with that baseline spend is that StatsCan data does lag. We only launched the formal components of the program in July of 2024, so we really won't be able to calculate against that baseline until 2027. That said, all of the program interventions that we do have reports for. So as Dr. DeMorrissey was referencing the farmers markets of Nova Scotia, that 38% are first-time visitors to farmers markets. We're hearing directly from farmers that it's increasing their sales anecdotally. We don't have them completely reporting that information in. Our retail partners are reporting north of 20% of a lift in sales of Nova Scotia products in store. We've increased the number of Nova Scotia product listings in store, so the accessibility of Nova Scotia products is increasing as well.
Thank you. MLA LaChance, please.
And so, I mean, there were a lot of numbers in there. And so first of all, I would invite and ask that you table the documents that talk about the different reports and the different increases. So you talked about 21.9 million. Is that over what time period?
Oh, sorry. I need to recognize you for the legislative TV. Ms. Quinn.
That would be an annual over the baseline. So it would be the 21.9 million. If there was a 10% increase, would be year over year.
MLA LaChance.
So is that what's happened, or that's the goal, or that's the, like, is that the actual impact?
That is the
Ms. Quinn.
That is the forecasted impact. Again, because StatsCan data does lag the 3 years, we do need that time period, but we do have the intermittent reports that we have from the retailers that we work with and with individual producers as well.
MLA LaChance.
And you talked about the anecdotal impact that you've heard from farmers, but are we asking farmers to track increase in revenue? What metrics are being used to know about the actual impact of this program for farmers?
Ms. Quinn or Deputy Morrissey?
I'm going to quickly punt this over to my colleague at Agriculture. We do have some data with respect to a number of people visiting the markets and new people visiting the markets, but I'll just hand it over to Deputy Hollett with respect to lift from farmers.
Deputy Hollett, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. We do track, along with Stats Canada, farm cash receipts that have been increasing year over year for the past 5 years for Nova Scotia farm and agriculture industry. Tying that directly to Nova Scotia loyal activities is a little bit difficult, but we do track things on a micro scale. For example, I can talk a little bit about institutional procurement, where we've worked with institutions like the IWK, where we do a baseline survey of their local spend, their spend on local food products. Last year, IWK spent at a baseline 21.29%. Through our work with our project committee, we increased that by 3.5% to 24.65. They also have an off-site location that had a baseline of 12%, and we increased that to about 19%. So that's a 7% increase. So those are tangible benefits, and as you can appreciate, institutions like the IWK, other hospitals, our schools, and other institutions, you can have a big impact on local buy.
MLA LaChance.
And I mean, as we all know, farmers are having a really difficult year, and it's not just going to be a one-year phenomena. But farmers have, in terms of the impact of the drought, but farmers have been having. I mean, you talked about farm cash receipts going up, but in fact, Nova Scotia farms haven't reported positive net income since 2016, and certainly the Nova Scotia Federation of Agriculture and Fruit Growers and Horticulture Nova Scotia have really signaled that there's a real crisis actually in farming and in agriculture. So I guess, does the department have a plan to reverse that trend? And also I'm wondering, really at the farm level, how are people being impacted? Because the increases of, institutional procurement certainly is important. But how does that, is that even spread across different farms? Is it larger producers? I think farmers need answers about how the government's going to support them.
Deputy Hollop.
Thank you, and thank you for the question. I think there's no doubt that besides the drought, where we're seeing some very direct impacts on production levels this year, there have been some challenges in the agriculture sector. I do think that there are a lot of successes in the agriculture sector that we can point to as well. A lot of our larger producers that have made their way into Sobeys, Superstore, and other institutions with their products that have taken advantage of programs that we have available to them. We have had some challenges in the past, like I mentioned this year with the drought, but we also have had major weather, climate-related impacts almost every year. Polar vortex. We had a very wet year for some. We had Hurricane Fiona and other hurricanes that have come through that have had significant impacts on agriculture here in the province that have created some challenges. The president of the NSFA, I think, had a really great summary when she was interviewed on the topic itself, talking about the impact of increasing expenses throughout the agriculture sector and the impact of challenging revenue streams. Farmers don't always control the price that they put on there. The department is absolutely aware of that issue and is working with the NSFA on those problems. I can say that, from the department's level, we work along with the federal government to get out programs to support the agriculture sector. We work with the federation to identify programs to support. I can see I'm getting the signal, but I can talk in more detail about those programs if you'd like.
This is actually working really well. So the witnesses can see the MLAs sending me the message, and then they wrap up. So MLA LaChance.
I do apologize that our time is limited, so just trying to get to different questions. So with regards to the drought and local farms, it's in provincial regulations, and this links to climate change and the effect on farming. It's clear that coverage for crop insurance covers wind, snow, and ice, but drought isn't on the list. Is the department going to amend the regulations to reflect this current reality?
Deputy Hollop?
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Our crop insurance and our business risk management programs are in partnership with the federal government and are actually negotiated at the FPT table. We are undertaking a significant review of our BRM programs right now to deal with those problems directly to make sure that Nova Scotia farms are protected. Crop insurance does cover a number of issues, and I believe that drought is covered. We've processed about 90 applications and sent about $2 million out right now in claims this year already under crop insurance. I would highlight that we also have two other programs that are out there as well. Agri-stability that deals with profit margin loss on farms. We have Agri-Invest, which is a program where farmers can get 50-cent dollars for investing into a program with the federal and provincial governments. And in terms of the drought, we'll also be submitting an application to the federal government for agri-recovery, and that is a program that's specific to wide-based disasters, and that helps farmers deal with rising expenses that are associated with these disasters. So farmers that would have to have had hauled extra water or had any extraordinary expenses due to the drought, we'll be working on that as well.
MLA LaChance, please.
And I want to turn back to the role of the program. So after, sort of many years of deliberation, one aspect of the program that rolled out was through a $950,000 sole source contract to Sobeys. With the program around Scene Plus points. And I'm wondering, we still don't have an answer about why that wasn't a publicly tendered contract. So why why was that a sole source contract? And I believe Ms. Quinn referred to the fact that with that rewards program, there was a 20% lift, but yet the program's been canceled. So why is the program canceled?
Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you for the question. There's a lot to unpack in that with respect to what. I'll start with why was it canceled? It evolved, got to the point. One of the reasons we instituted a loyalty program such as Air Miles or Scene Points is that building off an existing loyalty program where that 70% of Nova Scotians were already enrolled in an existing loyalty program made it easier for us to get involved with something to fast track with respect to getting people participating and getting people buying products more quickly. If we had to greenfield that particular program, it would take a lot more time and a lot more effort. We sunsetted that particular program because the initial stages of it was to introduce Nova Scotians to more Nova Scotia loyal products. And that was always going to be the short-term goal, raise awareness around where are Nova Scotia products available in these different bigger retailers. And so the success of the program early on was around how do we get as many products as possible, at the awareness level as high as possible so people knew where to go get and buy more Nova Scotia loyal programs. So that program would evolve. Just the clarity around Sobeys, that program was involved in Sobeys stores. Sobeys doesn't get the money. The money were to buy points that went to consumers. And so the consumers benefit with respect to getting additional points, and that was the incentive to get consumers buying more Nova Scotia loyal products, which it did, which got the 20% points. Now, the producers also gained because those products were being bought. And so it was a win-win situation for producers and for the retailers, Nova Scotians, because they got the points. Now, to why so we approached both Loblaws and Sobeys. Sobeys was very responsive, and we're able to get through with them much quicker. And given their network, we proceeded with Sobeys. But we also had conversations with Loblaws, and then we introduced two other large retailers, such as NSLC. And then the minister also had several conversations with other large retailers, home hardwares and others, who were approached to say, get involved. So we were open to those conversations with some of those other retailers. We also talked to the independents and got their feedback with respect to this program. And so, again, based on the circular feedback that we were continually getting and still get to this day, and that's what's so important about this program, that it evolves. So the points program, the loyalty program was good for the time that was in, but now we're into other sophisticated programs such as the food safety program or the labeling program and having more of a presence. So it's just making sure we direct the funding and some of the resources required as the program evolves.
Thank you. Order, please. MLA Lachance, please, with 3 minutes.
So, I mean, my understanding was actually that some of the sole source contract was for sort of setting up the program, that it wasn't all Scene Plus expenditures. Would you be able to table a budget from that contract, from the $950,000 in terms of where the expenditures went? And I guess my other question is, has the 20% been maintained? Because I think, again, looking at impact, right? So that's that's sort of great if it was a 1-year lift or a 2-year lift, but do we know has that 20% been maintained with Sobeys?
Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Melissa for some comments in a minute. And she can comment maybe around the 20%. This is what I can tell you, that we're in actually 162 Sobeys stores in Nova Scotia with over 1,700 different products. We are in NSLC, 69 NSLC stores across the province with almost 500 different products. We are in 75 Loblaws with over 600 Nova Scotia products. We are in Walmart, 37 different Walmarts with 185 different products.
These Order, please. MLA Lachance.
Sorry.
There's only a minute and a half left, so maybe, Ms. Quinn, if you could respond to the question, has that 20% initial lift been maintained?
Yes. Ms. Quinn.
Yes, thank you. The 20%, we noticed that immediately after we launched the program in July of 2024. We get what's called an insights report every month. So we had 1 week a month where we offered the points program. Once we saw the threshold where whether we were offering the points program or not, that 20% sales lift was being maintained. We took that back, made the executive decision to reinvest those funds into other incentive programs.
MLA LaChance with 1 minute.
And, I think there was a lot of concern about the sole source contract. I know early research done actually pointed towards Nova Scotians preferring another points program as a potential avenue. So will there be a report outlining what happened, a full report in terms of impact, expenditures for this particular Sobeys contract?
Ms. Quinn?
We certainly have the reports available, the monthly reports, insights reports that are part of what's called the trade spend. So when you're purchasing those Scene Plus points, the reason we did go sole source is we couldn't bring a net new points program into an established retailer like Sobeys. Like we couldn't bring Air Miles in when they're already partnering with Scene Plus. And when you're seeing those points on products in store, national and multinational companies, they're buying those points to have on their products. Nova Scotia businesses don't have the marketing budgets to purchase those points to compete with those national and international brands. So we were coming in and providing that for all almost 2,000 Nova Scotia products. And as a result, we had over 2 million Nova Scotia products purchased through the Scene Plus promotion and over 1.2 million Scene Plus collectors in Nova Scotia taking part in that program.
Thank you very much. We're going to move on to MLA Mumbercat, please.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here today. I'll have a couple questions before I pass it on to my colleague, but I will start off with the government in 2021 in their platform. They introduced Nova Scotia Loyal, promised the program would increase demand by 10%, and they estimated that it would increase local spending of upwards of $700 million and create 18,000 jobs. And I can table that. I have that here from their platform. Can you talk about has the program met these goals, and do you feel confident that they will?
Deputy Morrissey, please.
Sure. I'll start off with respect to the question, and then I'll hand it over to Melissa, who may have some more details again on some of the numbers. When the program was announced in 2021, a lot of work went into the first couple of years of doing a lot of research and consulting with businesses and Nova Scotians around what should a program look like. And if you look back to 21, we're in the middle of COVID, I think, or somewhere in that scenario. And coming out of COVID, things have looked very, very different. And the challenges before us now versus the challenges that we had back then are quite different. Even the business cycle at this point in time is going so fast. Things are changing minute by minute versus year by year. So I'll turn it over to Melissa, who can give some more statistics around that. But things have evolved tremendously over the last number of years.
MLA Mumbercat, do you want to? Yep.
So just through you, Madam Chair, so I guess I take from that, I guess my next question is, so you feel that 18,000 jobs won't be created because of Nova Scotia Loyal?
Deputy Morrissey.
I'm not saying that. I know we've done a lot of work with Nova Scotians and with producers and retailers, and the work, for example, done with the farmers market program, that there's a lot more people, a lot more products being sold in farmers markets, a lot more visibility. I don't have those specific data with me today, but we know that because more products are being bought by Nova Scotians from Nova Scotia retailers and Nova Scotia producers, that will have a ripple effect on those number of jobs. And so I don't have those numbers today, MLA, but certainly we can get some more numbers on that. But the intended consequences of raising awareness of Nova Scotians around Nova Scotia products, we certainly have raised the bar with respect to that. With respect to more products being sold on shelves, we've accomplished that, but there's a lot more work to be done.
MLA Mumbercat.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to make sure if Ms. Quinn wanted to respond to that.
Ms. Quinn, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would just say that we had engaged IGA and a consultant to look at mitigating any trade agreement violations that may be associated with offering a points or rewards program. Some of the advice that we were given was to not have incentives on products that are we have import competitive with, which defeats the purpose of having the program. So using something like the trade spend, where it is an equal playing field between any national, international brand buying those points programs. We also looked at the scale of the program. So right now we're looking at products that are grown, harvested, crafted, manufactured in Nova Scotia. Service-based businesses are part of the program if they are using local inputs. So some of those earlier data points, we're looking at a little bit of a more broader scope than what we're currently working with the program.
Emily Mumbercat.
Yeah, and that's a great lead into my next question, because you talk about manufacturing, and I'm talking to companies around the province, and this is more of a question, maybe some clarification around the trade rules. Like there is construction happening across the province. There are rules around that, but there are a lot of local manufacturers that aren't getting in front of government. These are local producers that build certain aspects of construction. They would be involved with any facet of the construction sector. They're selling their products all over the world, but they're not getting in front of government. So my question is, and Ms. Monroe, you brought it up, it was a great point when you were talking about, is that, I want to make sure that these companies have every opportunity, that if we're building a school or we're building a hospital or we're doing something, that they're at the table, and if we can buy Nova Scotia products and support Nova Scotia products, that's key for me within the rules, right? So my question, it could be to Ms. Monroe or anybody really on the panel, is how are you addressing that? Because last week I asked the same question in committee. It was around school construction, and again the same issue around the same question around the products that are manufactured here in Nova Scotia locally. So are you looking at, is there a real strong lens on that? Because I'm not getting that from the sector.
Deputy Monroe, do you want to take that?
Thank you for the question. So there's a couple angles. There's below the CFTA and there's above the CFTA. So on below the CFTA, which is where the 10% advantage comes in, we do a lot of work for building awareness. So a number of things. We know we send out quarterly reports to the chambers across the province around who in their local communities have received awards. From there, it takes a village. You can identify players that should be signed up to our tender site so that they get pushed what they're interested in, and so they understand when contracts are coming for under CFTA rules. There's as well reporting that goes to deputies to understand where are you spending Nova Scotia and where you aren't, and how do you actually push your selection to Nova Scotia. It is a real team approach. From the above CFTA level, yes, there are trade requirements, but those RFPs, and this is where I'll get our CPO to jump in on more of those details around the CFTA level. There is a focus, and we spend pretty much 75 to 77% of all government contracts go to Nova Scotia firms. So it's not that we're not playing in that space, and we are supporting Nova Scotia businesses as best we can, and that's a huge spend. So on that, maybe I can ask my colleague to augment.
Mr. Mitchell, please.
Thanks very much. It's actually not much to add to that, other than the fact that we've been tracking, as the deputy mentioned, spend from the government to Nova Scotia firms for the last 10 or 12 years, certainly as long as I've been here. That's averaged on about $1.8 billion annually of spend. That's averaged around the 74% each one of the years over the last decade or so. Those numbers can go up and go down based on any number of large procurements, et cetera. This year, we saw that number move up towards 76%. So much of what we're talking about here, although it's difficult to one-for-one pin that on those, we've seen an uptick of about 2% on $1.8 billion is somewhere in the neighborhood of $40 million additional that's gone to Nova Scotia firms. And so we see that on community benefit. We see that on a press through Public Works to try and see if the prime contractors can use subs who are Nova Scotian firms, can buy materials which are Nova Scotia created, et cetera. And so there's very much a focused effort where it's possible. Not that it wasn't before, but now it's at the front of those kinds of decisions.
Emily Mumbercat.
Yeah, thank you. And it's something, in talking with construction associations, of which I'm sure you're probably talking to them. They're the ones that are on the ground. We have a close relationship around the the rebuilds of the hospitals and whatnot in Cape Breton. So I just with the focus on local, I just don't want these companies to be lost in the mix, because there are some really great manufacturers here across Nova Scotia that can be helping in those construction. Of course, 10% threshold with the rules in place. So that's. I asked the question last week, and I want to ask it again just to get a different perspective from various departments. So I thank you for that. How many? Do you have any kind of idea in that 10% threshold how many contracts you've awarded to local firms?
Mr. Mitchell or Deputy Monroe?
Yes, we have that number.
Deputy Monroe.
Sorry, Madam Chair. Thank you for the question. I think I said it in my opening remarks. Last year we had 1,400 suppliers, Nova Scotia suppliers. We're awarded $470 million in contracts. That's both below and above the CFTA thresholds.
MLA Mombercat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, I'm going to get back into the program. In September of this year, the Premier stated that Nova Scotia has the worst GDP per capita in North America. In your opinion, how does Nova Scotia Loyal quantify the increased profits for small local businesses since exception? How are you tracking this data, and how do you feel so far that it's contributing to our GDP?
Deputy Morrissey.
Great, thank you. I don't think anybody's too proud of being at the bottom, but there's nowhere to go but up. So I'm encouraged by that. If I look specifically at agriculture, if that's the question, I think you look at the programs we're doing with the farmers markets and getting more products into farmers markets and being sold to Nova Scotians, that will have an increased emphasis in agriculture. The GDP in agriculture has gone down over the number of years, and we need to get that back up. And so while Nova Scotia Loyal will have some impact on the GDP, and getting more products and more sales is not the only tool in the toolbox that we should be using with respect to raising the GDP in the agriculture. Getting more productivity, which is a focus area for us as well, certainly with Invest Nova Scotia, is making, in order for us to help with GDP, productivity is significantly contributing towards raising the GDP, and that's a focus area for us and working with Department of Agriculture on that. But I'll ask Deputy Minister Hollett to see if he has anything else to add.
Deputy Hollett, please.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. Just in addition to Deputy Morrissey's comments, I think there's a great potential in the agriculture sector as well for a number of things. We have very strong supply managed companies here in Nova Scotia that we can build on and grow. We know that the population both in Nova Scotia and Canada and around the world is growing, and demand for food is going to grow. And we know we have strong producers here in Nova Scotia. So there's high potential for us to grow into that. And I think one of the areas that we are pushing into, that we would like to see growth into, is not just the primary growth of products here in the province, but also the value added of those products as well. Recently, the department announced the Strategic Agriculture and Seafood Initiative, which is aimed just at that. So it's a funding program for producers who are looking to add value to the products that they're putting out there, so that we can make sure that we get it on shelves in Nova Scotia and around the world.
MLA Mombercat.
Just before I pass it over to my colleague, MLA Rankin, there was just one thing. Ms. Quinn, you mentioned these, I just had the name at the top. There was reports you were talking, insight reports. Is it possible to table those two as well for the committee, so we can just get a sense of kind of how you're tracking the program?
Ms. Quinn, can we have those?
Yeah, there's some sensitive individual business data in those, but we can certainly look to clean those up in a consumable fashion.
MLA Rankin?
Yeah, I'm interested in the partnership with Sobeys, and that was asked previously, and it was said that they were more ready to introduce the program. So maybe you can walk me through specifically what the offer was to Sobeys, and if similar terms were offered to other groceries, the big ones, small ones included, and more specifically, how are they more ready than the other competitors?
Deputy Morrissey, please.
Takes a while to get used to it. So if I used more ready. I think they were more willing to have a conversation, and they were more accessible for us to get into to have those conversations quicker. With respect to the program, they have the scene points. They have an established scenes point, so it was more quick to market in order to get some of those products. So they do this all the time, these scene programs. But I'll turn it over to Melissa, who may have some more questions. We wanted to get a significant retailer. That was accomplished. We talked to multiple different retailers, and then we tried to encourage other large retailers to get involved where we could. Everybody has a different business model and want to do it a different way. Sometimes they're more inviting, sometimes they're not. We also did approach many independent retailers as well and get their feedback as well, and that was incorporated into that. So it's a continuous cycle of looking for improvements to the program. But I'll turn over to Melissa to talk about the Sobeys relationship.
Emily Rankin.
I'm just interested in how you qualify like accessibility. Is that because they are a Nova Scotia company, or did they have like specific relationships with specific ministers within the government? Because I'm sure these types of groceries stores would have liked to have that similar business uptake, because I take your point that consumers get points, but the cheapest way to advertise for companies is to have return, repeat, referral businesses. That's well known through all sectors. So there's an obvious benefit for a participant to be given a sole source contract. And what kind of exemption was used in terms of the normal procurement processes for government to use to qualify Sobeys among all the rest?
Deputy Morrissey.
I'll turn it over to Melissa to give it a little bit more detail. It helps when head offices are located in this province, where that you can talk to executives a lot faster because they're around and available to us, and familiarity, and also Nova Scotians' familiarity around that particular brand versus some of the other head offices for some of the other retailers are located in other jurisdictions, so therefore can be a little bit more problematic with respect to relationships that we may have with them. So certainly that is of added benefit. But we are talking to, we talk to a lot of independents as well, and so those are local people who we talk to as well to get their feedback. So with respect to the Sobeys piece, it was their head office was located here. They obviously are very proud of their Nova Scotia presence, and that was helpful as well. Melissa, do you have anything to add?
Emily Rankin, would you like to hear from Ms. Quinn? Ms. Quinn, please.
Thank you. Yes, all retailers were contacted in January of 2022 at the same time with the same offer. Sobeys do have a buy local strong program, to Deputy Morrissey's comments, located here in Nova Scotia. They have 162 producers who are currently supplying Sobeys. Loblaws only has 75. Walmart wasn't able to give us a breakdown of their local products. We had to send our teams in store to find that information. So the level of readiness, it was very different. Loblaws buy local person is located at a Saskatoon, so the realities of what's going on in Nova Scotia wasn't well known. So the readiness was Sobeys had folks on the ground here ready to go, but the offer was made to all retailers to join the program in tandem.
MLA Rankin with just over 3 minutes.
Yeah, and the benefits of having the scene points and all that stuff was presumably a qualifier. So why was that such a success if the program was then ended? And I think your answer previously was that it was successful because it was always meant for awareness. So how are you actually tracking to measure that the success of that program and choosing Sobeys first in the rollout? Is there ever going to be like an evaluation to look at the process of enrolling this out? Because originally this was a program about points for everybody at every store, and then it took 3 years, and then it, eventually came out to benefit one company at the outset. So will there be an evaluation to look at the success, a quantified evaluation?
Deputy Morrissey, please.
Thank you for the question. And so we are constantly in a feedback loop of evaluation, and we're looking for feedback from consumers, producers, and retailers. So we'll take a look and see what other additional evaluations are required or may be required for that particular program. again, I just want to emphasize the beneficiaries of the points program were the producers who got products in store shelves and sold more products and had a 20% lift. The beneficiaries are also the consumers, Nova Scotians, who actually bought the products. They became more aware of Nova Scotia products that were available to them as substitutes to maybe some other products. So that was a huge benefit. Once they got through that change of behavior, they were aware, oh, look, there's some blueberries there. They're from Nova Scotia versus blueberries from somewhere else. And once it went through several months, as we know, habits form over several months and several touch points. And so at that point, given what we had in the program and seeing the lift we had, we just want to diversify our programs, look at different pieces we're doing and some of the things we're doing around point-of-sale awareness in many different programs, some of the events that were established, the food safety program. I think we're in a constant feedback loop of different programs to get even more awareness and a higher lift of Nova Scotia products being sold and purchased in Nova Scotia. But again, I also want to go, this is also the benefit of Nova Scotia products. Once they get in a store, they can be across the country. Breaking down trade barriers, provincial trade barriers, and getting into more stores is also very important in creating more markets for them, whether it's in Canada or abroad.
MLA Rankin with 1 minute.
So where's the consumer behavior testing? Did that occur before this was rolled out to ensure that we have the right incentives so we're not just saying everything's going up?
I'm going to turn that specific question.
Ms. Quinn, please.
Great. Thank you for the question. We did do some prototype testing with large commercial retailers, independent retailers, and farmers markets. Unfortunately, consumers behave very differently in each of those purchasing environments, and the tools that work in those are very different. And independent retailers all have very different point-of-sale terminals. Many of them, some have 100% Nova Scotia products, some have a limited number, and they weren't able to extract that data. Specifically on the independent retailers, they were very much interested only in the marketing aspects of the program. The burden of bringing in a points program, very loud and clear, they felt would be a distraction from their business operation.
Thank you. And now we'll turn to MLA Timmins, please.
Thank you so much for coming today and presenting in front of the committee, and thank you for my colleagues for asking some great questions and you providing the answers that we were looking for a lot of comments. And looking at the large chains, the grocery chains, it's nice to be able to go into a grocery store and know that you're looking at Nova Scotia products and you're buying Nova Scotia products. So it saves me a lot of time in the grocery store because forever my family was directed to buy Nova Scotia local products. That's what I encouraged within my families. Now it makes it easier than looking at labels. So thank you very much for promoting that. I'm going to make a little bit more of a twist regarding some information on exports as well, and how more promotion for the products have been completed, or some understanding for me how it was rolling out and how it would affect the businesses and improve on them. We see big events like Saltscapes, and that's been featured in Nova Scotia for the last Nova Scotia products for the second year. And also, I'm just wondering, can you tell me how the Nova Scotia Loyal is involved, and how does the program support businesses in participating into something like Seascape?
Yeah. Deputy Morrissey, thanks.
Thank you for the question. And Saltscape is going to be a great event. And I think we're very proud to announce that this year at Saltscape, it will be exclusively Nova Scotia products, 100% Nova Scotia products. And that's not been the case in the past. And so the fact that when people are going to the event, they're going to open their eyes to a brand new, a lot more Nova Scotia products and be able to participate in that programs. And certainly the businesses that we're working with on that program or with Saltscape are also very excited by that opportunity as well. We have a big focus. One of the changes to the program is around getting involved with more events. We know that being involved with events, you get to talk to people and have more touch points with people. I'll let Melissa talk specifically about Saltscape because all credit to the people doing that work has been instrumental with respect to making that a fantastic event for Nova Scotians.
Ms. Quinn?
So this was our second year that we were able to completely take over the show. It's our signature Nova Scotia Loyal event with the Fall Expo with Saltscapes. We make a very conscious effort to work with underrepresented groups. We work with the Black Business Initiative, Mi'kmaq Rights, ISANS, the Centre for Women in Business, the Gaelic Business Initiative, and Farmers Markets of Nova Scotia, to ensure that businesses who wouldn't normally be able to attend those types of events are able to participate and get their products and wares in front of consumers. We do that at other events as well with vendor villages, where we bring a number of Nova Scotia companies into community and industry events. So like the Wharf Rat Rally, we've done that. At the Halifax International Home Show, we've done that. We've done it at the Cruise Pavilion in Sydney. So in places where people aren't necessarily looking for or expecting to find local products, and it gives us an opportunity to educate, especially at a home show, using local cleaning products as an example, that we can bring that educational and awareness into those community events.
Emily Timmins.
Would you have some data on the number of local producers that would be involved in that Saltscape?
Ms. Quinn?
Trying to remember, thank you. That would be, I think we were well over 100 businesses for the first time this year. I would have to go back and look at the number, but over 30% of them were first-time exhibitors at Saltscapes.
Well, maybe if you don't mind, after the meeting, I think the clerk will follow up, but if you can get us that number, that would be great. Emily Timmins, please.
How do you choose the event that Nova Scotia Loyal participates in? And how do you ensure that the supporting event across the province and in rural areas?
Ms. Quinn or Deputy Ms. Quinn?
Thank you. We get a number of inquiries from event host organizers. We do make a conscious effort. If it is a event where it is very local focused, we have a smaller profile. People are already committed, they're already educated, they're early adopters into purchasing local. So we do prioritize diversity in locations across the province, and then diversity in the types of events that we do. We're looking at doing an upcoming U18 hockey tournament ice jam that has 30,000 attendees coming to that event and showcasing Nova Scotia high protein cookies and protein shakes and supplements and things that you're not necessarily looking for in your everyday grocery shopping per se, but we're bringing those experiences directly into communities.
Emily Timmins.
Thank you. My colleagues across the table has some further questions to ask, so I'm going to pass it on to them as well.
Emily Burns, please.
Hi, thank you. Good morning. I have a question for the Department of Agriculture. You guys were talking earlier about the institutional procurement process. I'm just wondering if you could speak to what is being achieved and what the future goals are with local and sustainable economies as it relates to institutional procurement.
Deputy Hollett.
For the question, institutional procurement, I think, represents a significant opportunity for our agricultural producers and for the Nova Scotia Loyal program. Through the past couple of years, we've initiated 19 pilot projects at 50 facilities across the province, have impacted about 14,000 Nova Scotians. About 12,000 of those are students. And the value of engaging students earlier on is that you're building in the knowledge and the motivation to continue to consume Nova Scotian products later on. I had talked about the IWK and institutional procurement there and the increase of work that we were able to do there. Northwood, Halifax is another good example where their institutional buy was about 3% of Nova Scotian products, and through our pilot project, we were able to increase that to about 23%. So again, a significant increase of local buy there. And just to provide a couple of examples of companies specifically that were impacted by the institutional procurement, Terrabiata Farms in Heckman's Island. They've been around for about 25 years. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of them. Cultivating cranberries and support about 35 employees with their operations. They partnered with the Nutrition and Food Services team at Nova Scotia Health to develop cranberry and apple juices tailored to the needs of patients and clients. So this is a product that directly replaced imported products that were coming in, and they worked with our department and Nova Scotia Loyal on packaging, on food safety, to make sure that they had a product that was available and ready to be used in replacement of imported products. The other one that I wanted to mention was the Fresh Food and Cart School Lunch Program. So we worked with Chignecto Central and Straits and the Halifax RCEs to have a fresh food cart twice a week over a 12-week period at selected schools. Again, we reached over 5,000 students that way and gave students access not only to local Nova Scotian food, but healthy and sustainable food as well. These RCs have continued to use these as options, even in integrating it in the school lunch program. Thank you.
MLA Burns?
Thank you. I've actually heard stories of those fresh fruit carts coming home from my kids, so it's good to hear that that's actually local fruit getting out to the schools. I appreciate that. What did your pilot project achieve in terms of growth for local food consumption in these institutions, and do you have any data on it?
Deputy Hollett, please.
Thank you. That's not a promotion, right? Thanks. Thank you for the question, MLA Burns. So I think, as I had mentioned, before we did the pilot project, there was actually no tracking of local buy-in in Nova Scotia institutions. As I had mentioned, the IWK, we saw a 3.36% lift in procurement of Nova Scotian products. At their offsite facility, a 7% lift, and then at Northwood, we saw a 20% lift. I think that demonstrates the potential that we have here in Nova Scotia of making sure that our local institutions are, number one, aware of the opportunities to purchase Nova Scotian products, and then number two, for them to make the connection with those producers. So our team does a lot of work making those connections. We've put together the guideline for institutional procurement. We facilitated reverse trade shows to make sure that Nova Scotian producers have the connections in with the institutional procurements. And last year, we sent one of our staff to work directly with education and early childhood development on the school lunch program to make sure that we were identifying opportunities for Nova Scotian students to be consuming local, sustainable, and healthy Nova Scotian products.
MLA Taggart, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just I want to first say that the Colchester North has a huge agricultural presence, and some very large and a lot of smaller sort of part-time or family-owned or growing farm businesses, and they have, without questions, benefited largely from Nova Scotia Loyal. Just to throw a few things out there, I just have to, like things like honey to get them on shelves at Sobeys and other stores, and cheeses and sauerkrauts and those kind of things that are really like adding value and bringing income into into rural homes. But I really kind of want to focus on the institutional piece of it. I'm not sure who to ask this to, but and Rick has kind of stole a little bit of my question there. But early on in this Nova Scotia Loyal push, I was fortunate enough to be invited by the Minister of Agriculture to go to an abattoir in Pictou County. Wish it had been in Colchester County, but anyway, Pictou County, and where institutions like provincial jails, private long-term care. I think there was 7 or 8 different purchasers of food from for those institutions, and I was amazed that the purpose was, of course, to educate, and it really was an education, right? Like number one, the people that ran the abattoir didn't understand exactly what they needed to do to get them into that institution, and the institution didn't know, honestly, what that abattoir could provide, because they'd always just bought from large, you know what I mean? And I just wonder if somebody could give us a little bit more detail or something on how you folks put that together and how you educate. I think that's a huge issue in the institutional piece of it. So could somebody give us a little update on what you do to educate those two, bring them together?
Deputy Morrissey, please.
Thank you for the question. I'll start with the engagement of the business community. And I know Melissa and her team are constantly getting calls and feedback with respect to businesses who want to participate in some way, meaningful, or whether it's just part of a program, whether it's a labeling program, or whether it's a part of how did they get involved, how they get into a major retailer. And so the engagement of the business community has been very strong, from tip to tip, from Amherst down to Yarmouth, all the way to Cape Breton, down in Sydney. And many members of the team have been out engaging in those activities and talking to businesses. And as they see one businesses do something, is more awareness. So that higher awareness will drive more people to come into the program, and also allows us for feedback with maybe what other new programs we need to do with respect to the Nova Scotia Loyal Program to drive more awareness. So on the engagement part, we take that very, very seriously with respect to the feedback loop that we do have, and ensuring that when there are businesses calling us and saying, well, how do we get involved? We try to find a path with respect to the eligibility requirements for the program to ensure that they can be involved in some way. And because the menu there's quite a menu now to be involved, whether it's the labeling program or the perennial program or the food safety program, and will continue to evolve over a matter of time. Flip it over to maybe Deputy Minister Hollett to talk about the institutional piece, but we are trying to do a better job of working with different departments of making them more aware of some of the opportunities, because to your point, there are a lot of small businesses just doing small things, and they don't know about the opportunities, but they're so focused on just their product, just worried about their beeswax, or just worried about their cheese, or their cutting board, or whatever it is. And so I think the Nova Scotia Loyal Program really provides them more opportunity to participate if they have the resources to do that. The limitation is we have a lot of small businesses who have a lot of time occupied with just making their product. How do we get more marketing to sell their product, which will be a huge lift for them? So I'll just turn the institutional piece over to Deputy Minister Hollett.
Deputy Hollett, please.
Thank you for the question, MLA Taggart. I think that's a great example of the work that we're doing cooperatively with growth and development. It all starts with the people, and we've got a great staff between growth and development and agriculture that are working directly with producers. We have our ag reps and our business development officers that are out there every day on the ground, talking to producers, helping them identify opportunities. We have a position and budget specific to institutional procurement that tries to make that connection with the institutions to bring them out there, and we have the funding programs that are available to the producers to help them realize those opportunities as they get as they are identified. So we have a full package of services and supports that can go out there. I mentioned earlier the value-adding equipment program was about $1.5 million over the past couple of years. That supported 90 projects for producers across the province, including some of the examples that you had mentioned, for them to adopt and adapt their equipment to make sure that they can get into our institutions or on our shelves as well. There's a couple of good examples of that. We've invested in the Pan-Canadian Cape Breton Food Hub, about $200,000, and another $200,000 in the Station Food Hub to procure apple slicing equipment. And again, the purpose is to replace imported healthy fruit and vegetables that it's important for us to have in our institutions with local Nova Scotian produced produce. So this apple slicing equipment will allow them to package apples and to meet institutional procurement requirements, food and safety requirements, and also labeling requirements, so that they can get into those institutions and realize those opportunities.
MLA Taggart?
Thanks. I just I appreciate that, and I like the education piece where you brought the two together. That's critical. I want to hand off to
MLA Wong, please.
Thank you, Chair. Deputy Howlett actually mentioned reverse trade shows earlier, and I'm wondering if I can get some explanation on exactly how that works. I know in the spring there was one held here in Halifax. I believe there's one in Moncton right now, with Nova Scotia being represented there as well. So could you really explain how reverse trade shows benefit Nova Scotia's small businesses?
Deputy Monroe, please.
Thank you for the question. So just the premise of a reverse trade show is the purchasers actually go and set up their own booths, if you will. And then we invite vendors to come to talk to purchasers and understand what is being purchased. And so they have an opportunity to make connections. They have been very successful. We did have just one recently where in the morning it was really focused on Indigenous businesses, where they had a Q&A and an opportunity to talk to different levels of government. I do know the one in Moncton has both federal, municipal, and provincial. And so vendors come in from Atlantic Canada to that one. But the benefits to the vendor is they can have conversations, they can make connections, they can understand what the process is, and ask questions about programs within the procurement space. What's the flex track system? What is below the CFTA levels? And so they can speak to individuals across the spectrum. And I would say that there's a one-on-one learning and interaction and teaching between the vendors and the purchasers. But it's really about relationships and connection and awareness around what government needs to buy and how to go about buying it. And it's great when you have different levels of government there, so federal, municipal, and provincial. Anything to contribute? Thank you.
MLA Wong with almost just a minute.
Thank you, Chair. Wondering if you could give an example of maybe some of the purchasers that would go to one of these trade shows and maybe some of the potential vendors that are at these trade shows.
Deputy Monroe?
My colleague.
Mr. Mitchell?
Thanks very much. So for the local one, the folks who would have been the people who were doing the buying, we have our procurement folks, as was mentioned, the flex track people. Public Works would be there. We had the HRM. We had a number of government organizations who are all in the business of buying stuff from the vendor community, who came to see us. Was really, as Deputy Monroe mentioned, the real benefit to this one we had locally was the focusing it on the Indigenous businesses in the morning. First time we'd ever done that. Did it in order to create that space where they would be comfortable coming in and talking to government. Fabulous success. We had, I think, 40 or 50 of the local businesses that came in the morning, a further 200, 250 that were there in the afternoon from predominantly Nova Scotian, but Atlantic overall. And they would be everything from folks who have never done business with government, who came just to find out if this was an opportunity for them, or folks who have done business with government over and over and come there to find out, who are the new purchasers, who's interested in, what our government's buying right now, are there any new programs, et cetera. So it's a very mixed bag of who comes in the door, and the people on the other side, so the purchasers, we try and make sure we have representation from all of the government departments who would be buying things from the local community over that next year. And so really cool idea, a really good opportunity for vendors to talk to government, even just to find out if they're interested or not.
Thank you. Order, please. I'm going to now turn it back over to MLA Lachance, please.
Great, thank you. So just to circle back, actually, specifically around the impacts on businesses that participate in Nova Scotia Loyal. So, Ms. Quinn, you talked about relying on the data from StatsCan, which of course is a lag. But what are when people sign up? Businesses sign up, you send out the marketing information and the products. What are you asking them to track? Are you asking them to track increased revenue?
Ms. Quinn, please.
We're not asking them to track anything at this stage. Right now, when a business signs up for the program, they have access to all of the free marketing materials through the portal. Then the cost-shared labeling program, if they want to put the label directly on their product packaging. We have the food safety label or food safety program. So businesses, we're hearing from retailers saying it's the very first time that I have a pallet of U.S. product that I can't move. Can you help me find a Nova Scotia alternative? Usually food safety is the rate limiter of getting those businesses into those locations. So we stood up the food safety program to be extremely responsive to that for our Nova Scotia producers. And to Deputy Morrissey's earlier point, it's opening opportunities beyond just local sales.
MLA Lachance?
So I guess I'm just concerned that we're not actually going to know, aside, like we're in anecdotal numbers, we're going to know inputs. So if I think about this in terms of evaluation, but we're really not going to know the impact on Nova Scotia producers by relying on Nova Scotia, by relying on Stats Canada numbers. And I think I am concerned to hear that there is no requirement for reporting, particularly because there has been the program to support people to upgrade their labeling. So there's a $300,000 commitment in that, but we don't know what the impact is going to be, and so I am concerned about that. I think the other flip side to the program, of course, was always about affordability for Nova Scotians. So not only supporting Nova Scotia producers, but making it easier for Nova Scotians to access and buy local products. One of the things that with the Sobeys program, for instance, I know that when there was some prototyping done for that particular approach, the average income of the people affected was actually $20,000 higher. Or sorry, it was a more affluent demographic who recognized the Nova Scotia Loyal prototype and engaged. And so I'm wondering, have you done any further measurements to understand in terms of who is buying based on Nova Scotia Loyal, and are we actually making things more affordable for Nova Scotians?
Deputy Morrissey?
If I could start, I'm going to hand it over to Melissa. So I want to make sure we are tracking a lot of data of companies, number of products being sold, number of things happening in the food safety program. So there is a lot of data. The challenge with some of the things that you may be asking for is things like sales. There are different things that impact sales, not just the Nova Scotia Loyal program. That may have a positive effect, but there may be some other negative effects. So just measuring that one number may not give us the whole story. So I think there's a lot of information that we are collecting. And then also, when we get stories and testimonials, we're also taking those to heart and go, okay, if people weren't going to participate in the labeling program and there was no uptake, we would sunset that and move on to a different program and get feedback from people of how do we do that. So we are in a continuous cycle of talking to the local businesses on what programs do they think will have a positive effect on what they're trying to achieve. So I just want to quantify or qualify, I guess, with respect to there is a lot of data, and I think we got to be careful on the revenue piece because we're in a very uncertain times economically speaking. Some of it we can control, a lot of it we can't. We can't control what happens south of us at this point in time. With respect to on affordability, I think we've done many different things with respect to the affordability. Again, if you look at the farmers market and getting these coupons into the schools, the data around having a number of people going to the farmers markets, whether it's the first time, and I can tell you stories where moms and dads are now reporting back to us that this coupon program for the farmers markets are so successful, they are becoming repeat customers. They're looking forward to getting that coupon in their lunch bags or their knapsacks on the way home in May every spring so they can go out and buy products for the cookies that they're going to make. And so, again, all of this is very heartwarming, but it's also having a positive effect on the businesses to hear this story, because if it affects those two children, they're going home with their moms and dads, that's having a much bigger grand effect around the loyalty around Nova Scotia. So the food hubs, there's lots of things around the affordability that we could get into.
Thank you. MLA Lachance, please.
And I mean, I certainly take the point in terms of revenue being subject to a lot of different things, but I think, we need to be able to measure impact. We need to be able to, understand attribution and all those challenges in terms of evaluation, but we need to be able to measure impact. And, I think, there's a real need to bring all this together in a way that Nova Scotians can know whether or not this program is working. And I think, I think some of the data we've asked for today is good, but, I'm looking forward to continuing the conversation. I think I also just put a plug in for qualitative research in terms of the testimonials that you have. I mean, there are ways in which you can understand these testimonials that would give you a sense of trend rather than an anecdote. So, and I just wanted to switch. You mentioned food hubs, so that wasn't support to food hubs wasn't part of Nova Scotia Loyal, but I think it is very important. I mean, in conversations with the industry and the sector over the years, they've been pretty clear about what is needed. And the ability to, transform food, season extension, all of that. It's really important. That's one of the things food hubs do. There was also the food and beverage strategy. So that was launched. There were upwards of 2,000 respondents in consultations. This was a long process. There was a what was heard document, and now it's been abandoned. And I would have thought that a food and beverage strategy would have been a really important part of a lens on Nova Scotia Loyal. So I'm wondering, Deputy Minister Howell, if you can tell us why was that food and beverage strategy abandoned?
Deputy Minister Howell, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the question, MLA. The food and beverage strategy was an initiative that was launched, the public engagement itself back in 2022. You're correct. We heard from a wide variety of Nova Scotians, producers, companies that wanted to provide input into the strategy on where it is that we needed to focus. The food and beverage strategy itself identified a lot of opportunities that we are actually delivering on right now. So things like institutional procurement, I think Nova Scotia Loyal is part of that as well, identified areas for us to support, including the Cape Breton Food Hub and the Station Food Hub, like you mentioned, ways that we can aggregate production and get them out to Nova Scotians, because it's very difficult for Nova Scotian companies to compete with some of the larger players that are out there. So creating these centralized hubs that can bring product together to create consistent, high-quality supplies that can get out there. Some other things that were brought up in the food and beverage strategy, like the school lunch program, have been rolled out as well. And then a number of the support programs that the department has been rolling out over the past couple of years are directly related to the information that we've received from the food and beverage strategy. So while we have not published the food and beverage strategy, I can say that we are acting on all of the items that we've received feedback on.
Thank you. MLA Lachance, please.
I think I just would wonder why not make it public? Like, why were Nova Scotians engaged in that question? And you're telling us that, in fact, a lot of policy decision is being taken from that strategy, but it was never released publicly. So I'll just leave you with that question and just move to institutional procurement. There's been a lot of work on this. I'm wondering, within institutional procurement, again, getting back to the question around, for businesses, it's the bottom line, right? So either you make some money or you don't, and if you don't, then you're not around for the next year of Nova Scotia Loyal or what have you. So in terms of institutional procurement, are you tracking the size of producers? So for instance, the producers who are able to engage with Nova Scotia Loyal or specifically actually with institutional procurement, would any of them be considered small producers, or are we talking about big producers who are already ready for that type of engagement?
Deputy Hollett, please.
Thank you for the question. I would say the answer is it's a mixed. So we do have a lot of really great examples of large producers in the province that are out there right now in Sobeys and in Superstore and participating in institutional procurement activities. They're large, they're established, they've been around a while, they're ready to go. There are a number of producers that are middle of the pack. They're ready to start. They're ready to grow from the local farmers market or the local institutions into the next step. And I think that's where these wraparound support programs are really important in terms of both on-the-ground support from Nova Scotia Loyal people, from our business development officers and our institutional procurement people, and then the programs that support that. So the value-added programs where they can procure the equipment that they need to produce on scale to meet those institutional procurement opportunities. And then I think also the Nova Scotia Loyal health and safety programs and the labeling programs that help them meet those kind of micro-level requirements that open up those opportunities for them to get in there as well.
Thank you. MLA Lachance, please, with 2 minutes. More like 1 minute.
Okay. So I wanted to ask, again, on the affordability issue and, success with farmers markets, so the voucher programs. The farmers markets in Nova Scotia has expressed concerns around the fact that they would want more funding to support the Nourishing Communities Food Coupon Program this fiscal year. There's been a decrease in funding for that. That was, clearly targeted at getting people who don't see themselves using farmers markets or feeling that they're not affordable into farmers markets. And have any of the deputy ministers here today had conversations with the CCTH about increasing funding for this program?
Deputy Morrissey, 30 seconds.
Well, I'll be quick. I have not had those discussions with Deputy Minister from CCTH as of yet. I don't know from other colleagues whether they have or not, but it's a good conversation we can have, and certainly we're open to, again, the feedback loop on with respect to our programs is quite wide and far, and so I'll make a point that we'll go back and have a conversation and see what we can do with Deputy Minister Shore.
Time's up. Thank you for that, and we'll follow up, we'll follow up with maybe a letter at some point asking how that meeting went. MLA Rankin, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to go back to the points program, and I'm curious, after hearing from independent grocers, you've said, Ms. Quinn, that they weren't interested in participating in the point program. And do you think they were saying that and they were worried about being able to set up a type of system that large producers or large groceries could? And do you think by going ahead with that points program that benefits that part of the sector, that we could have inadvertently grew the pie for the market for the big groceries? I know it was since scaled back, but there was big partnerships with Walmart and the other big ones. So do you think that the percentage of local buy that's happening in the province is actually now directed at the big groceries rather than the co-ops, the independent grocers? And does that worry you? Because that's really what they were telling you, is that they were worried about point systems. And so there's a very limited household buy. I think you said 13% earlier that's local. So how are we actually looking at how that's distributed out to ensure that we're helping rural communities? As mentioned, that's really good for rural communities to have local shops, local co-ops. And are you looking at the percentage of buy with the big box versus the smaller groceries?
Ms. Quinn?
Right now, we have 63% of Nova Scotians reporting that they are purchasing their local products from large grocery retail. 62% are reporting purchasing from local farmers markets, and 50% are purchasing from specialty stores. So it's a pretty even mix, considering all of the aspects. In the independent retail, the burden to those businesses was loud and clear, and there really wasn't a one-size-fits-all solution with the number of different point-of-sale terminals, technology burdens, then the trade implications, and so on and so forth. But what we do for independent retail is we do have a merchandising team. We send our team in. They do all the installation and maintenance of the point-of-sale materials in-store to make it easy for them to participate in the program. We also go in and do monthly tastings of Nova Scotia products in-store. So we're doing the promotions in a different manner than through an incentive or a reward-based program.
MLA Rankin?
And so how is that number moving based on the incentives that you're putting in and your research on how to target government spending? And you said it's about 62%. So what's the survey population that you surveyed to find that number? And has it moved up or down? And is that why you canceled the points program?
Ms. Quinn?
So we did cancel the points program specifically because we did see that early return on investment of that 20% lift in sales. Then as Nova Scotians were using or finding Nova Scotia products, that maintained whether we were offering the points or not. So that was the reason that we culled that program or retired that program and then reinvested that money into more farmers market vouchers. We expanded that farmers market voucher program. We do have an economic impact assessment of farmers markets. It's a 10-year study. Over the 10 years, the cost or the individual basket size of a consumer has not changed, and it's under $20 for an individual that's visiting a farmer's market. What we've done is, again, the expansion of the farmer's market voucher program. Last year we had 135,000 vouchers. This year we have 215,500 vouchers, including post-secondary students and newcomers to Nova Scotia. But we also offer a 10% online discount for online farmers markets. So a lot of consumers are in the convenience craze. They're using the Instacarts, they're using the DoorDashes. So getting a consumer to convert from that to visiting a farmer's market is not reliable or not reasonable. So that 10% incentive for Wolfville Farmers Market to Go, who do all of South Shore, Annapolis Valley, and HRM, we offer that with the Cape Breton Food Hub as well. We have that with Antigonish Farmers Market. Those are the only current operating online markets. What we see when we offer a 10% discount is a 22% lift in sales. So an average basket size for an online farmer's market not using the Nova Scotia Loyal incentive is $50, and it's over $72 when we're offering that 10% incentive. So we're really moving that investment out of those points programs. As we say, it served its purpose in time, and reinvesting those dollars in direct-to-consumer purchasing.
MLA Rankin.
Yeah, and my concern is that it was a mistake to start out that way. I think there's better ways to spend government dollars to help local producers and really help them scale up. So what I hear from producers is that there are underlying structural issues in agriculture to really help them grow. And we can do all we want in terms of giving points and stuff. And but there really hasn't been a notable increase of food bought from local farms in the last number of years. So relative to the Nova Scotia Loyal program, when we're looking at the gaps around like processing and agro-manufacturing, how many product lines are actually fully processed here in Nova Scotia, and are you tracking that? Presumably you put a stamp on Nova Scotia Loyal products that have some kind of economic benefit, and that's fair, but are you actually going into the detail where you're looking at what's actually processed here, given the gaps that exist in our sector?
Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you for the question, MLA. I'll turn it over to our agriculture folks just to give more specifics on the agriculture data.
Okay, Deputy Hollett, please.
Thank you. I think that's the benefit of the Nova Scotia Loyal program and the labeling requirements with Nova Scotia Loyal, where we can provide some certainty to consumers that the product is grown, produced, and distributed throughout Nova Scotia. The reporting requirements are out there for that. I think in Nova Scotia we have, as I said before, a wide variety of companies that participate in food production. We have a number of companies that are national and international in nature and have very sophisticated operations for processing foods that have to meet very stringent requirements for exports as well as local consumption. And again, we have a large group that are almost there or ready there to jump into the Nova Scotia market. And I think that's where the programs through Nova Scotia Loyal, through our department on the value-added production, can help get them over that bump. Farm cash receipts have been increasing in Nova Scotia year over year, so the value of the products that are produced in Nova Scotia or grown in Nova Scotia has been growing, and those products do make it into the Nova Scotia market as well as being distributed throughout the country and around the world.
MLA Rankin.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I appreciate the last comment on the increase. I wonder if that's proportionate to the consumption increase, population increase, or if it's a percentage increase relative to overall spending. But I think what I'm trying to get at, my colleague will probably ask about the lunch program, because I think there's limitations in how local we can make local go with our current structure within the sector, and they've been saying this for years in terms of a lack of processing for fruit and veggies, for dairy. And I wonder if the department's looking at the structural ways that we can improve the sector in terms of a processing kind of strategy. Is there any talk of actually using some tools that the government has to attract investment to speak to the value add that you're speaking to, so that we can actually make what we're calling local truly fully local and grow the sector?
Deputy Hollett.
And thank you again for the question. I think that the two examples that I had mentioned earlier, the Tierra Beata Farms and the Station Food Hub, on bringing in, helping them with equipment purchases to produce products that are grown locally that can substitute out products that are actually imported into the province, are two really good examples of those opportunities. We also have our season extension program. That's a $7 million program that's available to farmers and producers for projects that actually extend the growing season. You know, whether that's greenhouses or irrigation or other things that can add months to the growing time and increase the products that are out there. I had mentioned the Sustainable Agriculture and Seafood Innovation Fund as well, and again, you know, that is focused in on increasing production here in the province. And getting those food products out to Nova Scotians and, again, around the world. And I'll say it again, the staff that we have at Agriculture and at Growth and Development that are available to help build the capacity of these producers. If they have an idea, they can come forward to either our ag reps, our business development officers, or the team at Growth and Development to help navigate those things, because I do understand that sometimes moving from a local production to a regional or a national production can be challenging. I would encourage them to come forward. We're there to help. We have business development officers that are specifically in place to help them do that, and we have lots of great success stories out there from that.
Emily Marmarket with 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll just make a comment on the lunch program and leave my question because I have a question around the vouchers. I just think it's important, whatever we can do to get that local produce into that lunch program is key. We know that from what I hear, that's not happening in many of the situations. I think it's such an important program. The government doesn't track how well it's doing. It doesn't track waste. It doesn't track some key factors. But one of the key factors, and it was for us when we started looking at the program, was how to get that local produce into that lunch program, and not only for our kids to support local and support those local farmers markets. So I'll just say that. I do want to talk about the vouchers because I only have a few minutes. So from what I gather, there's about 135,000 of those vouchers that are sent across the schools and students. That's the number we have. 21,000 vouchers were redeemed. So, you know, one of my questions is around what's the plan to try to get that number up if you're providing that many vouchers? Not going to 21,000 is a good number too. Don't get me wrong. I think that if you know, growth of that's going to be key. And also, can those vouchers be used everywhere? Can they be used at all farmers markets?
Deputy Morrissey.
Thank you for the question. I'll make my best crack at it. Melissa can correct my numbers if I'm wrong. So the first year of the program, there's 135,000 vouchers. I believe this year there's 220,000 vouchers. We expanded the program to include additional organizations like Immigration Services Nova Scotia and a few others. Last year, what we learned, again, with the feedback loop, some of these vouchers went into the school bags very late in the year, and some people didn't recognize the vouchers until the beginning of the next school year. And so we knew there was more of an education that we had to do with respect to the program. We did have some good numbers. So the people who got the vouchers, 38% of them who used them were brand new to the markets, and that's a great number, getting more people into the markets for general awareness. So the voucher redemption is going up. The voucher program is open, even though we sent out vouchers for this current year last May, which was a month earlier than normal. So we made that improvement. A lot more people were asking for them, like, when am I going to get my voucher, which was a positive feedback. And the vouchers are applicable right up until December 31st of this year. And so we only put them out into the post-secondary institutions in September. And so, again, we're still waiting for some additional feedback. It's early in the fall to see where we land. I was down in the Valley a few weeks ago for my son's football game, and the Valley was just booming with Henniger's and a few others, with people in there with a buy local campaign. They can see people the vouchers. So again, it's anecdotal. We'll have more statistical information for you by the end of the year once the voucher program is complete. But we're already seeing a bump in the numbers and redemption and the feedback with respect to people participating in the program. Melissa, do you have
No, I'm sorry. Time is up, so I'm going to move on to MLA McLeod, please.
Good morning. Did you want to finish your thought on that last question, Ms. Quinn?
Ms. Quinn?
Sure. With offline coupons, so coupons that go in your mailbox or things of that nature, the expected redemption rate is between 5 and 10%. With this voucher program, we had a 16% redemption rate. As Deputy Morrissey suggested, it had to take an interesting path through a backpack home, and if anyone has little people in their lives, you know what those backpacks look like. So 16.8%. We were very thrilled with that number, and again, that the 38% of those were the first-time visitor really has emphasized the success of the program.
Emily McLeod?
Thank you, and good morning. I had a question. Could you tell us the eligibility requirements for the program? And I guess more specifically, how does your team ensure that the businesses that sign up for Nova Scotia Loyal are truly Nova Scotian?
Deputy Morrissey?
I'll start and hand it over to Melissa. And again, thank you for the question. So we have very specific requirements for both the producer and the retailer. So on the producer side, they have to have Nova Scotia-based ownership and headquarters. So they need to be located right here. They have to be authorized to operate in Nova Scotia as a producer. They need to be direct to consumer on retail sales. So they have to go directly to the consumer. They have to meet one of the three production types: wholly obtained, substantially produced, or value added. And so that's an important category. And producers can receive automatic approvals if they're active members of partner industry associations. So we're trying to streamline so people can participate and have some association with some of these partner industry associations, such as Nova Scotia Farm Registration or Taste of Nova Scotia, Forest Nova Scotia. Again, it gives us a checkbox. We're very rigorous to make sure that we follow this protocol so that people, and we have lots of people saying, well, what about this particular circumstance? So Melissa and her team, a very small team I might add, make sure we go through a proper validation process to make sure people qualify and meet those requirements. On the retail, they have to be registered and located in Nova Scotia, so you just can't not have a location here in Nova Scotia. They have to sell products from Nova Scotia as well, and then may include service-based businesses using local inputs as well. But I'll turn over more if you have anything else to add, Melissa.
Ms. Quinn?
Great, thank you. Yes, it's really important for us to authenticate those products that are Nova Scotia. When you see that badge on a Nova Scotia product, we want consumers to be absolutely aware that and confident that that is authentically a Nova Scotia product. All previous Buy Local campaigns were strictly agri-food, seafood, and beverage. This is the first campaign that includes arts and craft and culture products, forestry products, manufactured products. So we really had to create a criteria that was inclusive of all of our industries and not just the food and beverage sector. So we do have kind of three main categories for those products. So wholly obtained basically means it has been fished from Nova Scotia waters or plucked from Nova Scotia soil. We have substantially produced, which means that not all the inputs come from Nova Scotia, but all the transformation of the product occurs here. So like a bakery, we don't grow a lot of wheat here in Nova Scotia, but as long as those products and that value add is happening here. And then lastly is the value added stream, which is a portion of the product transformation happens within Nova Scotia. So that's really in our manufacturing sector. So windows, doors, those types of products. So we really go through each individual business application that comes through the portal, make sure that they satisfy at least one of those three criteria before they're able to use the label on the product.
Emily McLeod?
Thank you, Chair. Nova Scotia Loyal is a fairly new program, and a lot of ground has been covered in just over a year. I was wondering, do you guys have a long-term goals, let's say 5 years down the road? And if so, what does the roadmap look like to reach those goals?
Deputy Morrissey?
I'll start, and then again I'll hand it over to Melissa with some more of the details. The program is new. We launched it in July of 2024, and since that point in time, 1,500 retailers or producers have been participating. We have a very small team working on this project. It's Melissa and a couple of contractors out in the markets at events participating. Everyone around the table here have people participating in this program. So we want to continue to grow those numbers, whether it's the number of consumers buying or whether it's the number of retailers selling. I'll turn over to Melissa with a longer-term vision.
Ms. Quinn?
Thank you. Yes, so our program mandate is to increase the demand and consumption of Nova Scotia products, and with that target of that 10%. As respect to a 5-year plan, we pride ourselves in being very nimble and responsive. So what the program looked like a year ago looks very different from what it looks like today, and we continue to hope to be able to maintain the program to be responsive to our industry and stakeholder needs, moving into more incentives direct to consumers, moving into having the cost-shared programs with the food safety program and the cost-shared labeling program. We want to meet our businesses where they need us, and we'll continue to do that, but stay true to our mandate.
Thank you. Emily McLeod.
I don't know if there's more than one vehicle, but I see that branded Nova Scotia Loyal car or cars everywhere, which is nice to see. Which leads me to this question, kind of a question about the boots on the ground. And I wanted to know what steps are being taken to ensure that this program can deliver for rural businesses, like out more in my area outside of maybe HRM, out in the depths of beautiful Nova Scotia.
Deputy Morrissey?
I'll start, and thank you again for the question, MLA. There are a lot of boots on the ground with respect to the small team we have, talking to those retailers and producers. I spent some time this summer in July in Cape Breton. A cruise ship had come in. This tie was bought down in Cape Breton from a local retailer. And so the team may be small, but our footprint of who we're talking to and the number of touch points we have is quite vast. The number of companies, again, I want to reiterate, is 1,500 businesses. We know there are a lot more businesses we do need to touch, and a lot more work that can be done, as Melissa has stated. The good thing about this program, we can be nimble and adapt. And so whether it's with a small business in Truro or in Pictou or wherever the case may be, the touch points can be needed by phone and phone the office, and somebody will be in touch with them and get some of that feedback, or whether that's us set up at events, and whether that's events down in Cape Breton or down in Amherst or over in Amherst or down in Yarmouth. We are really all over the map and working with underrepresented groups across the province as well to expand the touch points with respect to reaching out to consumers. And also the businesses. The businesses, again, as I mentioned earlier, are really focused on making their product, where we're trying to give them a hand up. How do we give them more markets to sell? And so they can focus on make your products and we'll help you get the market. And so building capacity with small businesses, a very large percentage of businesses in Nova Scotia are small to medium size, and they don't have a big overhead or a lot of talent to help them expand their markets. The breaking down of provincial trade barriers, too, is very, very important. The fact that now limited number of trade barriers in some provinces and jurisdictions provide much greater markets in Canada for us to get our products out. That, too, is a big market, whereas the international market can be quite scary for folks. If you're in a very small community and you're thinking, well, how do I get my product in Greece? That's scary. But if you're saying, how do I get my products in Quebec or Ontario, where there's a much larger population, that's a huge hand up. And so we want to make sure we're working with local businesses and providing them every opportunity to excel and achieve some of their business goals as well. Melissa, do you have anything else you want to add?
Ms. Quinn?
We do have an excellent partner, Maverick Communications, who does our merchandising program. So we have staff all over the province who travel. I think we have 6 cars that are part of our contract. So they provide the vehicles. They allow us to wrap it with the Nova Scotia Loyal branding. But every single retailer that have signed on to the program, we visit their locations all through the province twice a month. So every Nova Scotia product has eyes on it in store twice a month. The producers aren't having to go in and make sure that their products are displayed properly. That's all taken care of by our team through Maxim.
I'm going to go back over to MLA Timmins, please. And there's 3 minutes left.
Thank you. I'm here within the community and in Cape Breton, and I talk to farmers in the community as an MLA, and they do show and express to me the concerns about promoting their products and how expensive advertising is and so on. And I have firsthand been involved with, speaking to the Cape Breton Food Hub and seeing the great work that they've been doing. They commented on I asked myself to say, is this program benefiting the Cape Breton Food Hub? And the comments from them they were very happy with what Nova Scotia Loyal was doing. And the 10% coupon was a big benefit to them. They see the increase. So I really encourage you to go back and talk to the Cape Breton Food Hub. I know you have been, but to get some more data from them and how they're helping the farmers within the community. And also the value added. This is all the discussion that's been happening within the Cape Breton area. But again, I want to ask the question. I know I'm saying a lot of what I've been experiencing, but the question is what is your feedback from the producers as well as the people that you're working with on how it's benefiting them? Are you getting feedback? And what changes are going to happen in the future because of that feedback? Do you have any changes in mind, or if there's a program in mind that's going to advance on that?
Ms. Quinn, with 1 minute.
We're hearing lots of really great positive feedback from businesses. We have one business producer who is a newcomer to Nova Scotia, has their product in a local retail location, expressed to us that she's had to live off the food bank since she's moved to Nova Scotia, has never paid herself a salary, and since our team has been supporting her and supporting her product in stores for the very first time, she's giving back to the food bank and able to draw a salary from her business. Again, that's an anecdotal story, but we have reams and reams of testimonials from businesses who, say that the program has been life-changing and able to support not only them but their employees as well.
MLA Timmins, with 10 seconds.
Sorry about that. Has there been changes within the program? Like, has it been revolving because of that, because of the communication?
Ms. Quinn?
Absolutely. We foster an open communication. We have an Outlook email inbox that we monitor daily. We have our social media accounts. We meet with producers in field. We have business development officers through agriculture who are kind of boots on the ground telling us what the realities are, and we're constantly evolving and responding to those. And the kosher labeling program is a great example of that. We designed the program in 24 hours, had it on the website in 48 hours, and businesses were able to start participating in that program.
Oops. Okay, thank you very much. We have come to the end of our question time, but I'm wondering if anyone would like to make some closing comments before we let you go. Deputy Morrissey, do you have closing comments?
I don't have any formal comments. I just want to make sure that thank you for all the questions that we received today. As Melissa and other members of the panel have said, we are looking for continuous feedback, and you're the people who are out in the communities. So if there is feedback, by all means, provide it to us. We have a small team, which means that we can be nimble. A small team can also get things done a lot quicker at times. We are lacking some resources to be everywhere at all points in time, but this is a critical and important time for Nova Scotian and Nova Scotian businesses. This is Small Business Week. We are here to help give a hand up to these small businesses, and I think Nova Scotia Loyal has been doing that. Can we be better? Absolutely, and that's why we're looking for your feedback, and we look forward to working with you and the committee for continuous feedback moving ahead. So thank you.
Thank you. And Deputy Hollett or Deputy Monroe, anything? Okay, well, thank you very much. We're going to continue with our meeting, but you may exit. Okay, we are going to just do a tiny bit of committee business. Last week there was an item that was left off the agenda, so we need to have a formal motion to endorse the Auditor General recommendations for the school capital planning report. So is there someone who would make that motion? Emily McLeod, please.
I move that the Public Accounts Committee formally accept and endorse recommendations contained in the 2025 report of the Auditor General, School Capital Planning, that have been accepted by the audited departments or agencies, and ask that those departments and agencies commit to and take responsibility for full and timely implementation of the recommendations accepted by those departments and agencies.
Thank you very much. Is there any discussion on that motion? Okay, all in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you very much. Our next meeting date is next Wednesday. We have an in-camera meeting with the Office of the Auditor General regarding the 2025 report of the Auditor General, planning and acquiring nursing home beds. And I just want to say that I thought that that was a very good meeting, very respectful, and lots of answers, lots of things to follow up with, though, with the clerk to get lots of the information that was cited. But good job, everyone. And with that, I will close the meeting. Thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned.